Lil Baby once had a chokehold on hip hop. Yeah, the grapple was so tight that back in 2021, the game said he was a top 10 rapper alive. Yeah, at the time, people, including myself, agreed. These days, Lil Baby would be lucky if people didn't tell him, man, watch out. If he stepped foot anywhere near that list, I think it's safe to say is the momentum behind his career has slowed down. Wouldn't you agree? That's why in this video, I'm gonna break down why he needs to do a few things before it's too late, because his career is currently in jeopardy. By the way, guys, my name is Uche and I make videos like this every single week, or at least I'm planning to. So if you like what you see, hit that like button. It'll push us out to more people. If you wanna see me grow, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into this. Okay. Let's talk about Dominique Jones, better known as Lil Baby, AKA WHAM, or Wham Wham Wham. Remember that era of Lil Baby where he was going around saying Wham Wham Wham, bitch, I'm Lil Baby? Anyway, let's talk about the stagnant artistic formula of Lil Baby. And I can honestly attribute this to his terrible hooks and lack of growth when it comes to his music. Now, Lil Baby's never been the most talented artist in the world, but I think we all kind of liked him for his raw underdog story, especially when it comes to the fact that he was rapping his ass off on a lot of those early verses, right? I take you guys back to the song My Dog. I mean, look at what he did on that song. I mean, it's simple hooks, but he gives you that feeling. It's like when he gets in gear, it's like, bro, he can't be stopped. Also, remember what he did on Drip Too Hard, the song that he had on the collab album with Gunna. These are very simple hooks. Again, nobody's asking for anything intricate from Lil Baby, but I do think what he was doing well, he got a lot of credit for it because, again, he was getting in that gear and he was really delivering, right? Think about what he did on Close Friends as well, the song from My Turn. I think Lil Baby had a knack for delivering infectious hooks, and I feel like he went from that to what he did on Hey. Yo, that could arguably be the worst hook that Lil Baby has ever delivered. Matter of fact, it might be the worst song he's ever made in his life. Or how about on his last album, Wham? You know, he had a song called Say Twin, Say Twin, Say Twin. I'll be honest, man, like this is like really obnoxious sounding hooks, and I just feel like it doesn't work anymore for Lil Baby. Also, let's talk about the fact that his content has changed significantly throughout the years. And salute to him, man. He's a high roller. He's somebody who's made a lot of money in the streets gambling, also in the music industry. I definitely feel like his lifestyle has changed, and why wouldn't it, right? But you can definitely feel it in the music. He went from a guy who was kicking knowledge and giving you inspiration and highlighting his grinding skill set and almost giving you like street game that I feel like all the street dudes really was appreciating, to now he's kind of regressed to just simply becoming that guy who talks a lot about tricking and how many cars he has and all the money he's clocking, and it's getting a little stagnant in my opinion. You can also think about the collab project he did with Lil Durk, where he coined, well, I don't know if Durk coined him that or they came up with this in the studio, but we talking about voice of the hero. Lil Durk was the voice, Lil Baby was the hero. That moniker is no longer attached to Lil Baby anymore because of the content that he's been giving us over the years. Also, in my opinion, he stopped challenging his artistry. Again, nobody's asking Lil Baby to become Tyler the Creator or do something that we've never heard of, right? Clearly he's never been that type of artist, but do you remember the era where he dropped The Bigger Picture, right? He was really talking about something. That he captured a moment. He really stood up for Black Lives Matter and took a stand with the people against the police. That was a powerful moment. Or what about when he was on the 2022 FIFA World Cup anthem called The World Is Yours to Take, featuring Tears for Fears? Do you guys remember that song? Probably not, right? But that was a very big sounding song, and it really saw Lil Baby on a different style of production that you typically don't hear him on. Or how about in 2021 where he was on the Space Jam soundtrack and he had that song called We Win featuring Kirk Franklin? I thought that was also a really interesting part of Lil Baby that we got to see, but again, you don't see it a lot and you see it in glimpses, and that's part of the issue with Lil Baby. Now, his biggest songs are probably 2020 and before that. Let's be honest, I know he's dropped multiple albums since then, but that album My Turn still to me me is the pinnacle of Lil Baby, and it's almost like he's chasing himself. He's chasing the success of himself, similar to what Cardi B is essentially doing, right? She dropped her debut album. It was a smash. Every song went platinum, and now it seems like she's chasing her previous success, and it's automatically going to be considered a failure. So I think Lil Baby's, while he sells a lot, I think it doesn't match what people think of him, which I think is also a disconnect. It could easily be seen as an issue. Let's talk about the fact that there's a lot of media narratives that are overshadowing his music, right? I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. You guys can go do your Googles. Matter of fact, go on YouTube, type in Young Thug snitching, QCP, Gunna. Lil Baby's name is going to show up all throughout that. But that's another thing that people are talking about, right? I think it's making Lil Baby's name get brought in the mud, and I just feel like people are no longer talking about what they want to hear from Lil Baby musically. Rather, they only talking about, oh, does he side with Young Thug in this snitching scandal? What does Lil Baby think? It's like, again, we no longer focusing on the music, which I also think is a problem for Lil Baby. And so these are issues I see with Lil Baby, but I do feel, I don't want to be too negative because there's a ton of songs and albums that I have loved from this guy throughout the years. It's hard to believe it, but Lil Baby actually is damn near a 10-year veteran in hip hop. You know, his first project that he dropped was called Perfect Timing. That released in 2017. Then he came back with another mixtape called Harder Than Ever in 2017 as well. That followed another mixtape, To the Hard Way, came in 2017 as well. And then we get another project in 2017 called Too Hard. That's 4 projects in 2017. Actually, damn, I'm just starting to notice something. Yo, get this guy a Blue Chew sponsorship. What's up with him and being hard? Pause. Anyway, Too Hard actually was a dope project though, because that was the album where it had the song Freestyle. I know you guys know Freestyle. That could easily, and I'd say arguably, be Lil Baby's most iconic song. I remember seeing clips from him performing at like Rolling Loud and just different festivals, and he literally will close his entire set with the song Freestyle, and the crowd is going insane. So you can see that song still rings off, and it dropped damn near 10 years ago. On that same project, he had a song called All of a Sudden featuring Moneybagg Yo. That was also a really huge song for Lil Baby and Moneybagg Yo at the time. Next, we got his album called Harder Than Ever, which dropped in 2018. It debuted at number 3 on the Billboard charts, selling 71K first week units. It had songs like Yes Indeed featuring Drake. It has songs like Life Goes On featuring Gunna and Lil Uzi Vert. It also had a song called Leaked, which, yo, a lot of people never talked about that song, but I don't know what it was about that track. I just really enjoyed Lil Baby singing and crooning, if you will. Like, there's something endearing about a dude who can't really sing like that attempt to sing, and he did that on that track, so shout out to him. Next, y'all know we got to talk about his collab project with Gunna, which was called Drip Harder, which they dropped in 2018. Man, what a iconic album for both of these brothers. Now, I know they're not seeing eye to eye at this point, but that mixtape did a lot for these guys, man. It debuted at number 4 on the Billboard charts with 130K first week units. It has songs like Drip Too Hard and Never Recover featuring Drake. Now, I mentioned My Turn prior, but that is his next album. It dropped in 2020, which I would argue is his career-defining album. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts with 197K first week units. And it has songs like Something to Prove, Whoa, Emotionally Scarred, We Paid featuring 42 Doug, and also The Bigger Picture, which I'd mentioned before is arguably his most impactful and best song. But again, I ain't gonna get into that. Y'all let me know in the comments, what's your favorite song from My Turn? Now we get to his next project, It's Only Me, in 2022. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard charts with 216K first week units. It has songs like In a Minute, which had the Drake and Jay-Z sample. They had that collab song called Pound Cake. I know you guys remember that. That was a dope record. They also had that song called Forever featuring Friday, California Breeze, and that damn Hey song. Man, I wish that song didn't exist. Like, real talk. Can we just abort mission? Let's just throw that one away. I want to go back to the future on that song. Man, what was his people thinking, honestly? Why did they let him do that? That was insane. As a matter of fact, I remember a clip that was going viral of his folks in the studio, and they were previewing that song, and everybody in the studio looked bored when that joint was playing. It couldn't have just been me who noticed that. But anyway, anyway, we get to his latest project, Wham, in 2025, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts, and it actually sold 140 first week units. Okay, enough of the history lesson. Y'all know Lil Baby's discography. That's not why we're here though. We're here to talk about why his career needs to show improve ASAP. Now, first and foremost, quite frankly, he needs to make bigger records, man. Like, let's be real. Make bigger records and make more commercial sounding records. Now, on It's Only Me, he had a song called California Breeze, which people weren't really talking about at the time, even though it was like damn near, I believe, the lead single. But I liked what he did on that record. I even liked the music video. He had this laid back player vibe, talking about what he would do with the woman. Ferrari in the California Breeze is blowing in the wind. Like, it was a dope aesthetic, a dope vibe he was painting with that song. I feel like he needs to get back to being the cool guy, not this street guy, bro. Like, yes, he's gonna be street and that's what he is, but infuse a little bit more commercial element to what he does. Also, remember that song that he dropped, Emotionally Scarred, which we talked about on one of his previous albums? I think he needs to get back to stuff like that as well. When we talk about Lil Baby singing and talking about that hurt and the pain, I feel like people felt that. The guys felt it, the women felt it. Who the hell doesn't feel being emotionally scarred? That's a huge record that I think set the tone for what he did on My Turn, and also just in general what he does well as a whole. Also, let's talk about the bigger picture. We need to have a real discussion about the bigger picture, because who else was surprised to see Lil Baby of all people become the face of Black Lives Matter as it relates to rappers, right? We got people like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Absol, Lupe. I can name you probably 100 rappers that I thought would have took a stand against Black Lives Matter and conveyed it in a way that was palatable to the masses before I would have named you Lil Baby. But somehow, some way, he delivered the bigger picture and it worked. It really worked. And so I just feel like he needs to get back to making bigger records. Also, he needs to stop making promises, bro. Come on, man. If we're gonna have a real conversation about Lil Baby, in 2025, he's promised a few projects that have not come out. For example, he did his album rollout during the WHAM rollout, and he sat down with Lil Yachty. He also sat down with, I believe, Charlamagne the God, and he talked about how a few weeks after WHAM drops, he was gonna drop that personal album of his called Dominique, which was supposed to be another side of him. Well, that never dropped. Also, in September, he said The Leaks was gonna drop. And as I'm recording this, it's still not out. He said it was gonna drop on September 5th. It's still not out, and there's been no explanation as to why it hasn't dropped, which I think is really odd. Also, let's talk about the WHAM World Tour. That's another thing that he's promised fans that he had to renege on. It was something that out of the blue, fans were reporting that they started to get refunds because he canceled a ton of his European tour dates. In the UK, he also had to cancel Paris. Shoot, this even extended beyond the UK. This went into Australia and New Zealand, and man, the timing couldn't be any worse, because at a time where people are already questioning whether Lil Baby fell off, now we have to have a conversation about why he's canceling tours. If anything, it only feeds into this narrative that he's falling off, and so it makes fans speculate what the hell is going on with this guy. And also feature on more people's records. Remember what he did with Central C on Band for Band? That was dope. Or what about the street song that he did with Boss Mandilo called PJ? Very infectious street hit that worked for him. I think he needs to really get back into that bag. And lastly, he needs to focus on himself. Now, we're in 2025, and I know y'all see what's going on with Gunna. Gunna was left on an island, and he came back like with a vengeance. Be careful who y'all back into a corner, man. Some people will actually rise to the occasion, and Gunna definitely did that. And I feel like Lil Baby should stop getting caught up in all the street stuff and really just focus on his career, man, and making music that people loved him for in the first place. I feel like if he does that, all will be well. All right, let's talk about what's next for Lil Baby. So, as I mentioned before, man, like, it's simple. Get back to what worked. I don't know if I can say that much more simple. As I said at the start of this video, I was on the hype train with Lil Baby. Hey man, players F up too, man. At this point, we just need to adjust our expectations. And it is what it is at that point. You can't put the genie back into the bottle, or you can't put the toothpaste back into the bottle, or you can't put the cart before the horse. You know, all those stupid ass sayings, man. Y'all know what the hell I'm talking about. In other words, we've gotten ahead of ourselves, and it's okay. Let's just forget what we did, and we're here at a new day. Where do you believe Lil Baby needs to improve on? Y'all leave your thoughts in the comments. I think he also just needs to drop the leaks and see what hits, because at this point it's looking grim, and I try not to be super negative, but I think it looks really crazy that a guy who was once the next guy in rap is still commercially successful, but is no longer garnering the respect and the glory that people once put on his name. And so we're gonna see how this thing unfolds with Lil Baby, because he's definitely at a crossroads in his career. But what do you guys think? Was Lil Baby overrated this entire time and we just gave him too much credit? Or am I making much to do about nothing and he's just okay and he's on track for greatness? Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, my name is Uche, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.